27 object, both the victim and the suspect here.
134 be advised, 93, 27 associates with the suspect and the victim. West.
21, 3 William 172, no water warrant.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of From the Legal Side. This week, we're going to be talking about deadly force and where one is authorized to use it. This topic is nothing new. It's one that we've often discussed, but unfortunately, it's just almost a daily situation where we have private security and public law enforcement, public safety involved in on-duty shootings, and sometimes they get it wrong. This past week, 3 private security officers were convicted of murder in shootings that they were involved in within the past year. Now today, I want to talk about one specific case where not only did the security officers get it wrong, but their actions were 100% criminal, as the jury had decided last week when they found the security officers guilty of murder. So let me set this scenario up for you. This happened in Kansas City, Missouri last year, and it was in the heat of summer. It was a hot summer Midwestern day in Kansas City, Missouri. 2 contracted security officers from Force One Security and Consulting were working at a nightclub. The nightclub, Yum Yum Bar and Grill, was pretty busy, and everything seemed to be status quo. The customers were enjoying their time. The security officers were attending to their duties. But all of that would soon change that Thursday night. It seemed that sometime during the later hours of that evening, the security officers heard a loud crash. And so they went to investigate. The security officers crossed the road and down the road a bit from where they were contracted to be, looking for where that noise came from. Was it a car accident? Was it an explosion? The security officers would soon find the vehicle that had caused the noise, because the vehicle had run off the road and slammed into a power pole. So far, the security officers have done nothing wrong. They heard something that sounded pretty serious. They went to investigate, even though they left the property where they legally was contracted to be. And it's never really a good idea to leave the property where you're working, where you're assigned, because even though you have good intentions and you go out to help somebody else, what if something bad happens back at the business where you're supposed to be? Or what if that noise was really a diversion and someone went back in to the business to rob it, and other people were to be injured or killed? You left the property. So in this scenario, in this situation, the security officers find the vehicle. And the vehicle has crashed into a light pole. Now, at this point, if the security officers had rendered first aid, if they got him out of the smoking vehicle, if they called 911 and gave a detailed description of the person, the vehicle, and what happened, everything would have been A-OK. It would have been great. They would have done their citizen duties. They would have been the good Samaritan, maybe even the hero of the whole situation if they pulled the man from a car that might have been catching on fire. But that was not the case. What happened, according to bystander witnesses and law enforcement reports and what came out during the trial, yes, they had a complete trial because they were arrested. What happened that unfortunate night was that the security officers, young 24-year-olds, 26-year-old, and the victim 37 years old, the security officers ordered the man out of the vehicle. The man moved the vehicle less than a foot, according to the investigation. And at that time, both security officers opened fire, killing Christopher L. Jones, 37. Christopher L. Jones, 37, was actually the security officer. My mistake. I apologize. Jones was charged with second-degree murder, armed criminal action, tampering with evidence, an employee of Force 1 Security and Consulting. Another security officer, 24-year-old Markle Pinkins, also charged in that shooting. The company's license to operate was revoked. During the investigation, when officers arrived, the other very alarming thing was that the victim of the shooting, who was actually 45-year-old Kevin Thomas, was found face down on the ground after he'd been shot and handcuffed. There in the middle of the road, first responders find Thomas lying handcuffed in the street next to his vehicle. Handcuffed. These security officers had no jurisdiction on that road. They had no authority to handcuff that man. They had no authority, no plausible reason to fire shots into the vehicle. This is a situation where they did not think about what they were doing. They did not assess the situation. They did not understand the totality of the events, and they didn't even, for one moment, stop to call police before they ran over and began giving orders to the driver to step out of the vehicle. In their own trial, it states clearly that they were ordering the man not to move, get out of the car, get out of the car. Who are they to tell somebody to get out of the car at gunpoint? They have no authority there. This man was a victim of a car accident. an injured person needing medical aid. They're not the police. They have no authority there. This wouldn't even be an action done by law enforcement. Arriving at the scene of a car accident, unless somebody's armed and pointing a gun at us, law enforcement is not going to order this man out of the car at gunpoint. What were they thinking? What could they possibly have had in their head at that moment? They were unauthorized to be where they were. They were unauthorized to order the man out of the car at gunpoint, nonetheless. Nonetheless, who did they think they were? We can blame all of this on training. We can blame all of this on supervision. We can blame this all on hiring the wrong people. And I'm sure all of that equates into this whole scenario, this whole situation. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual's own assessment, their own skills, their own reasoning, their own liability. And when we come back from this quick break, I want to tell you about something else that happened there that's very alarming. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, sponsored by Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. If you're looking for the best body armor, protective wear, protective clothing, hey, we've got it. Stab-resistant vests, gloves. Check us out today. Body Armor USA. Call them today or check them out online. We've got what it takes to protect you. We'll be right back.
Nurse, I need you to apply pressure to the head wound until I can get to it. I'm concerned she's lost too much blood.
Oh, no.
You in the corner, who are you? You're not supposed to be here.
She's my girlfriend, Doctor.
You need to wait out in the waiting room.
Please, Doctor, I want to stay with her.
Look, she's been badly injured. So if you want to do what's best for her, you need to let us do our work.
Please, Doctor, she has to be okay. I didn't mean to do this. I love her.
Wait a second. You were the driver?
Yes, but I didn't mean to. I swear, we went to dinner. I was just buzzed. I only had a few drinks.
Just buzzed? Why didn't you tell us that? In that case, your girlfriend is fine.
Hey, sweetie. I feel great. You want to get out of here?
I can't believe this. Really, Doctor? She's really okay?
What, are you kidding? No, not really. Nurse, get me a suture kit. Stat.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought...
At Armor College, a public safety institute, we train those who help others. Paramedics and emergency medical technicians, firefighters, police officers, law enforcement, private security, bail enforcement, and those on the front line. Check us out today at armorcollege.org. ARMOUR college.org. We'll even bring the school to you. Armor College, a public safety institute. Welcome back to On the Legal Side. And just before break, we were talking about an incident that happened in Missouri. And this situation is not unique to the security industry, where security officers with good intentions make really bad decisions and drastically change their life. Now, in this situation where security officers were working for a contract agency at a nightclub, heard a noise. They didn't really know what the noise was, but they went to investigate and they left their property. That was a mistake, but I believe there at the beginning they meant well. They went to investigate, maybe to help somebody who needed some aid, assistance of some type. But here they are. They have found the vehicle crashed into a pole. They ordered the man out at gunpoint here on a public street, private security, ordering the man out at gunpoint. And when the vehicle moves a little bit, less than a foot, they open fire, shooting him. Now, what's really horrendous about this whole situation is not only did they fire upon the unarmed man, but they also took him out of the vehicle not to render aid, not to give him first aid, not to stop the bleeding until medics could get there. No, they took him out, face down on the ground, handcuffed him at gunpoint, and left him there. No attempt to render aid. No attempt to administer first aid. No attempt to stop the bleeding. No attempt to be humane in this situation. And when police arrived, when medics arrived, that's how they found the man, face down, handcuffed, and dying. Good intentions maybe in the beginning, but when you come upon somebody who has been involved in a car accident, as a private security officer, you have no authority to do anything. You might have had authority to detain the person had there been a crime, but no crime had been established up until this point. Up until this point, this was nothing more than a car accident. And this, again, time and time again, becomes a shooter's remorse. But once the bullet leaves the firearm, there's no taking that back. There's no do-over in these situations. Not many years ago, a similar situation at an Ohio apartment complex. Two security officers on patrol hear loud music coming from a vehicle late at night. They approach the vehicle. They ask the person to identify themselves. The driver doesn't cooperate. All of a sudden, guns are pulled. Shots are fired. What was just a man listening to his radio in the vehicle now goes to a situation of a use of deadly force, and both of those security officers arrested, convicted, big trial. Nashville, Tennessee, a security officer at a bar a number of years ago, same thing. He sees a man getting into a vehicle. He thinks, well, he might be drunk. I need to go check up on him. So he goes to check up on the driver. The driver's uncooperative. He moves his vehicle. The security officer stands behind the vehicle so he can't escape, so he can't drive off, and winds up killing the driver when the driver backs up into, allegedly, the security officer. Well, you have no right to be there. You have no right to be behind the vehicle. That's a stupid place to be, behind a vehicle, a 2,000-pound weapon. Good intentions gone haywire. More than 100 times a year, security officers are arrested for unlawful deadly force. Some of the things that police look at and the courts look at when trying to determine whether or not it was a justified use of force by a private citizen, they look at the totality of the situation. Was this necessary? Was this whole situation a situation where the security officer was justified in this level of force? Were there other options? Could he have just left? Could he have used less lethal, pepper spray, taser, baton, hands-on? Was there other options? This is exactly the same protocol, the same areas that are looked at when investigators and juries and courts have a case in front of them involving law enforcement. What was the options? What could you have done differently? Was this a last option? Or was this just somebody losing their cool, somebody untrained, somebody who just without any regard for life fired upon and killed an innocent person? One of the other things that's very important to note about this use of deadly force, and this is a question that's almost always asked when it involves a security officer. Did they have a legal right to be where they were when they used that force? And in this situation, no. They had no contract. They had no legal right to be there. Maybe in the beginning when they went to assist a possibly injured driver in a car accident, but they had no legal right to be in the middle of the street. They had no authority to demand that the driver get out of the vehicle at gunpoint. They had no legal authority to use deadly force in trying to detain a person who may have committed a misdemeanor by being under the influence, if that was even the case. We don't know. And surely the security officers didn't know. They're going to look at the training. They're going to look at the quality of the training. Who trained them? Who was the trainer? What was required by law? Shooter's remorse is something that we see all the time. Now, even though in all of these scenarios that I gave you, the Ohio apartment complex, the Nashville bar shooting, the shooting here in Kansas City, Missouri, all of these situations were supposedly self-defense, but in the end, in court, after they were arrested and going through trial, they apologized. They said, "Oh, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to do this." But by then, it's too late. By then, it's just words. By then, there's no taking it back. It doesn't help the situation. It's not going to help your prosecution. It's not going to help your defense. It's not going to help the victim's family. It's done. Are there times when we have to use deadly force? Of course. We see it every other day, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. Security officers using deadly force, and it's justified in protecting themselves and others. We've had just this year, I don't know how many hundreds. We're still assessing all of the shootings and use of deadly force and all of the statistics for 2019, but we've had hundreds, maybe even thousands of security officers, private officers, special police involved in shootings, deadly force, taking the life of another, and they've been legal, they've been justified. But we've also had probably 150 unlawful use of deadly force where security officers have been arrested this year. Maybe 200. We'll know sometime within the next few weeks. But these are situations many times that we don't have to get involved in. Unlike law enforcement, where once they're on scene, they can't just decide it's coffee break time, time for donut, time for lunch, time to go home. They have to stay. Their sworn officers, their sworn oath dictates that they can't run from a situation. But a private citizen, as long as it's safe, as long as they can leave without any force, they can leave. No one says that a security officer, even on a contracted property, has to use the ultimate level of force unless they are in imminent danger, unless they are in imminent loss of life right there, that second. If they don't use deadly force, they're dead. I think too many times we mean well, but we don't think well. We don't take a second to assess the situation. We let things get out of hand. We let things grow, and once that snowball starts rolling, we don't try to stop it. We just continue on and on and on and on until all of a sudden bullets are flying. And oftentimes it doesn't end well for security officers. Good intentions, but sometimes those good intentions go south. Deadly force options are available to private security and citizens alike, but we have to know when. We have to know when to use that level of force. The security officer in this case found guilty. The two security officers in Ohio at the apartment complex found guilty. The security officer in Nashville, Tennessee found guilty. The security officer in Dayton found guilty. The security officer in Miami, Miramar Beach, earlier this year, found guilty of murder, 2nd degree. We need more training. We need more scenario-driven, real-life training, hands-on. Forget the paper targets. Forget the PowerPoint slides. Forget the lecture. We need to get out there and really have some hands-on, scenario-driven training and do it on a regular basis. Shooter's remorse. It never, never, never ends well for people who don't have the training and don't stop to think about what they're doing. That's going to conclude this episode of On the Legal Side. I'm your host, Rick McCann. Until the next time, be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.